Our guest today is the Alderman of the 2nd Ward. He is a first-generation American whose father came through Ellis Island, moved to Pullman, and got a job at the Pullman Train Car Company. He earned his undergraduate degree in political science. Our guest today served as student body president at the University of Illinois. He earned his law degree from Northern Illinois University in 1978, and he is of counsel to Wolin, Kelter, and Rosen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the City Club of Chicago, Alderman Bob Fioretti. Alderman? All right,
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you, Jay and Paul and the Board of Governors of the City Club for inviting me back again. You know, a lot has happened since I stood here a year ago. I was sworn in to my 2nd term. I have 13 new colleagues in the City Council. We have a new mayor to work with. I fought a personal battle and beat cancer, and the doctors are confident they got it all. But you know, I am grateful now more than ever for each and every day. Unfortunately, what hasn't changed is that the fact is that we are in the midst of an economic crisis. We need determination now more than ever. Challenges can get you down, or they can spark dogged determination. Determination that is steady, persistent, and unyielding. Even more so now, we must use that determination with a sense of purpose to improve our neighborhoods and improve the quality of life, not only in the 2nd Ward, but throughout the city of Chicago. Think globally, act locally. I've said it many times before, and probably from this podium. These are the words I live by every day. How do we transform our city? We have to think innovatively, operate more cost efficiently, and be more efficient while improving the quality of life for our residents. And the 2nd Ward is a little different than the other wards. It is rich in diversity and is a true microcosm of the city. It starts a few blocks south of here, covers most of the South Loop, West Loop, East Garfield Park, all the way up to Sacramento, parts of Little Italy and Bronzeville. It borders on Greektown, Pilsen, and Chinatown, and it is home to landmarks such as the Willis Tower, the museum campus, Soldier Field, and McCormick Place. There are over 65,000 college students attending school in the Loop and South Loop, 22 institutions of higher education, including DePaul, Columbia, Roosevelt, John Marshall, and Kent. They make the South Loop the 2nd largest college campus in the nation. It is conservatively estimated that students spend $60 million annually on apparel, food, and beverages and groceries in the Loop and South Loop. Overall, last year, these colleges employed 15,000 workers and spent over $850 million on goods and services. As you know, the remap will change all ward boundaries in some way. This is a world-class city, and we need world-class representation for our citizens. We must avoid costly litigation that will cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. We must address the remap fairly and expeditiously. Today, I believe the role of alderman is more important than ever. With the scarcity of resources and the great demands that I hear from my constituents for services and public facilities, it is especially important for an alderman to work with the agencies involved and the public to allocate and leverage resources more effectively. I've worked hard to do that over the last 4 years, and I believe that we will continue to do that in the future, even with fewer resources. So today, I specifically want to address 4 areas: jobs, infrastructure, education, and efficiency. My focus on job creation has led to a broad range of developments in the 2nd Ward. We're building the 2nd largest campus in the nation, a vertical campus in the nation, with the new Roosevelt University. at 425 South Wabash. And I know you're going to hear a lot more about it tomorrow from Chuck. So thank you, Chuck, for being here. The continued expansion of the Rush Medical Campus, scheduled to open early next week, created over 500 jobs with preferences for residents in the 2nd and 27th wards. A new Trader Joe's opened in the South Loop at Roosevelt and Wabash in the historic Trailway building in September, and I know people are happy about it. Construction is underway for a new Target in the 1100 block of West Jackson. And I could tell those, a couple of my neighbors, by the way, who live on my block, so, and they're very happy with the Target, and it's scheduled to open up in July. It will feature Target's newest concept with full grocery section, pharmacy, a health clinic, and parking. Joining me at the groundbreaking recently was the CHA Commissioner, Devera Beverly. I've worked with the Target Corporation to establish a dialogue and provide employment opportunities for local CHA residents. For the last 3 years, I've been working with several city departments to address a host of issues at the southeast corner of Madison and Western, and I'm glad to report construction is ready to begin for the Pete's Fresh Market. We will be breaking ground in the next couple of weeks, and we will be eliminating a true food desert on the west side. We've already broken ground and construction is going forward on the new Costco at 15th and Ashland. And this year, we broke ground and built a new Catholic school at 15th and Michigan. We've had open discussions and approved a JMC Steel, an Ohio-based manufacturing company, to move their national headquarters here. And each week, my office works diligently with between 3 to 10 permits granted for construction in downtown buildings that average anywhere from $30,000 to over $1.5 million of construction on each permit. In total, these developments have created hundreds of new construction jobs and several thousand permanent jobs in the ward. I've also been working with the developer of the old Maine Post Office above the Eisenhower Expressway on redevelopment plans for that site. One area, though, that I am extremely excited about is the transformation of Motor Row on South Michigan Ave as a destination spot to honor our international reputation as the home of the Chicago Blues. Called Motor Row because this was once home to Chicago car dealerships, Motor Row over the years it was transformed into Record Row, home to several legendary recording studios like Chess Records at 2120 South Michigan. The studio was for some of the biggest names in the business, including Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and Buddy Guy. Chicago Blues is revered and has been a source of inspiration for musicians and music fans globally. Establishing a destination location to honor the Chicago Blues telling its story is long overdue. And I've already introduced, and the council has passed, a zoning ordinance that would change the strip's zoning from mixed use to downtown service, allowing for more restaurants, businesses, and offices, and restricting loft conversions. Developing Motor Row into a music and entertainment destination will eliminate McCormick Place's isolation and connect it with the South Loop, create construction and permanent jobs, and grow our tax base with tourism and local tax revenue. We can and we must continue to grow our tourism dollars exponentially. They say in DC that the states are laboratories of democracy. Here in Chicago, neighborhoods and wards are the laboratories of democracy. And our challenge in the council is to go beyond cutting the city budget. Our challenge is really to transform this city. I truly believe that we are in the best city in the world, but we can be better. Chicago is no longer dominated by manufacturing. We've become an increasingly service-oriented economy, financial services, insurance, real estate, and the growing technology base. We have to constantly push and evaluate how to grow our employment base. I have long felt and believe TIF dollars must be deployed to transform and spur additional development. The recent TIF Commission concluded TIFs were an important tool to maintain in the city. And when deciding to allocate TIF resources, it should pass a but-for test. But for the investment of TIF, the development would not otherwise occur. Neither government alone nor businesses in its own can get us out of these economic headwinds. We must be effective and smart and use private-public partnerships to transform our city. Let's look at the places TIFs have helped transform in the Second Ward. Using TIF funds to leverage private capital and attract the Willis Group holdings to the renamed Willis Tower in the Second Ward brings to Chicago, also home of Aon and CNA, one step closer to being the insurance capital of America. We use TIF resources to attract and retain millions of dollars in private capital and thousands of jobs at Willis Holdings, CME, United Airlines, Miller Coors, all which entered into multi-year agreements and have leveraged on the average 7 to 8-fold private dollars with a TIF allocation. These companies, along with the Ziegler Corporation relocation, have brought over 4,000 new permanent jobs to the Central Business District. And in the case of CME, we assisted in the expansion and renovation that led to the retention of 1,750 permanent jobs and 900 potential new jobs. Retaining CME also meant the retention and creation of upwards of 3,000 indirect jobs. Each year, I have hosted a job fair in the Second Ward. Last year, there were almost 1,000 in attendance. This year's job fair will be held at Malcolm X, and we have many of the leading employers in the ward being represented. And I've said it time and time again, we have to grow our tax base. And we do this by creating jobs and preserving the jobs that we have. Creating jobs addresses the housing issue head on. When people have jobs, they can pay their rent, they can pay their mortgages. My office has continued to sponsor and offers counseling and legal resources for people struggling to pay their mortgage. To deal with the issues of blighted and abandoned properties that blanket vast areas of my ward and throughout the city, I co-sponsor the vacant building ordinance passed by the City Council in July that holds banks accountable and responsible for maintaining properties once they have been foreclosed upon and left vacant. I know we are in a judicial foreclosure state, but the length of time from foreclosure filing to the bank being able to take possession of the vacant property is way too long and must be reduced. Last year alone, the city spent $15 million to deal with vacant buildings. The Department of Buildings had to tear down or board up more than 500 buildings at a cost of $13.7 million. The Department of Streets and Sanitation also had to perform upkeep on over 1,900 vacant buildings and tear down 345 empty garages at the cost of $1.8 million. We have to put an end to this waste of taxpayers' money. But good infrastructure is also needed to attract good businesses and improve public values. My office and staff have continued to work diligently in bringing infrastructure improvements throughout the ward. We have brought more than 250 blocks of resurfaced streets, more than 350 blocks of upgraded lighting for neighborhood beautification and better public safety, 19 resurfaced alleys with additional green alleys on the way, more than 1,100 catch basin repairs to improve our sewer systems, and more than 800 sewer cleanings and inspections to facilitate proper drainage. New streetscapes on Western Avenue and Wabash. In total, more than 1,000 trees have been planted across the ward to green and cool our neighborhoods, some of which have been without greening for years. The roadway repairs on Congress construction project are scheduled to be completed by this Thanksgiving, and that will add to another beautification streetscape. And construction is underway for a new 12th District Police Station at Blue Island and Maxwell. And I do want to point out that I do have the commander from the 11th District, Eric Washington, over here too. Eric, thank you for your service that you provide us. I've continued to use TIF funds to build 6 new parks in my ward, and more are on the drawing board. We have completed Mary Bartolome Park, named for the first female judge in Illinois, and we dedicated it this summer. It has won design awards and is a tremendous amenity for a neighborhood with very little green space. We propose naming a new park at the South Loop at 16th Street and Wabash Ave for jazz musician Fred Anderson. Fred founded and operated the Velvet Lounge, which served as an incubator for many young jazz musicians. The park will feature a large dog-friendly area and include a performance area for music and gatherings. We are renovating parks like Dunbar Park, which serves as a regional park on the south side, and we are continuing to work and plan for other parks on both the south and west sides of the ward. And sometimes, it is not what you add to attract business and development, it is what you take away. My office has worked rigorously to hold businesses accountable, to be good corporate citizens. And we have closed down several bad establishments that have drained the vitality and safety from our neighborhoods. And one example that I'm proud of our efforts was to close down Willis Liquors on Madison, just west of California. With the help of many city departments, I documented the city's poor conditions inside and out and the problems that it brought to the neighborhood. The result was that the owners gave up their business license and local residents were elated. The location is in the center of East Garfield Park, and the traffic count suggests it is an area ideal for retail development. But infrastructure is not limited to bricks and mortar. For example, I've worked with Rush University Medical Center to host an annual Second Ward Back to School Health Fair. Are You Caring? A community service program courtesy of Rush University students co-hosted the event. Rush physicians, nurses, and students volunteered their time along with the Chicago Department of Public Health and other sponsors. More than 400 students of all ages had access to school physicals, vision and hearing screenings, dental exams, and updated immunizations for the start of the school year. I truly believe, and it is well documented, that healthy students have better attendance and perform better in schools. And for the last 2 years, I have hosted a Bike the Ward, led by Greg Borzo, and Greg is here today, author of Where to Bike Chicago and the Chicago L. So, Greg, thank you for the work that you did on that. Bike the Ward residents allow residents and friends of the Second Ward to enjoy the 10 to 15 mile ride exploring the Second Ward historical sites and landmarks while promoting health and wellness and bicycle safety. From Bronzeville to many of the items there, to where Mrs. O'Leary had a cow, to where the Cubs won the last World Series. It's all in the Second Ward, folks. And I've worked to bring protected bike lanes for the last 3 years to encourage bicycle usage and safety in the Second Ward. From Portland to New York, protected bike lanes are promoted as healthy, affordable, and environmentally friendly means of travel. I make regular visits to over the 20 senior homes that we have in the ward and sponsor senior lunches to foster communication, provide a forum to educate them on senior services that are available to them. I am proud to say a lot of the things that we are doing are now supported and doing in the Second Ward are in line and are supported now by the Department of Public Health's recent plan, Healthy Chicago, a public health agenda for a healthy city. Moving to education, over the last 5 years, I have devoted much of my time, energy, and resources towards improving the schools in my ward. Since there are over 40 schools, 40 public schools in the ward, they cover both the most affluent areas and the most troubled urban American areas in the city. My ward is representative of the ways of what is happening in Chicago and where we are heading. Everyone has the same stated goal, which is to make every school a great school. The difficulty, though, is how do we achieve that goal? And I can report that ongoing efforts begun even before I was elected have resulted in 4 new chartered high schools, a new grammar school building with new neighborhood programs, the opening of a new magnet school, a grammar school, several specialized alternative schools, all being located in the second ward. I've used TIF funds to build a new grammar school, and we are building a new Jones High School downtown, which is one of the best high schools, not only in the city, but I believe in the nation. We've established a preference boundary for the new Jones, giving families that generated the TIF funds an opportunity to attend their new school building in their neighborhood. Jones Preps College May graduating class received an aggregate of over $19 million in scholarships this year, and yet it is a school that does not have a library or a gymnasium and suffers from overcrowding due in part to the population growth of the South Loop. Think of what can be done with a new facility. CPS and the charter schools have replaced nearly 40% of the principals in the second ward in the past few years through retirement or firing. The new principals, though, I must say, overall are younger, they're energetic, and much more savvy on the issues facing our schools today, from technology to gang issues to new curriculum ideas to the challenges of the ever-changing workplace. I've continued to work closely with all of the principals and have concentrated efforts to help new schools and principals to integrate into the community. And my regular principals breakfast forums bring together all of the principals to discuss issues of mutual concern. My policy over the last 4 years has been to stress the need to provide better and more neighborhood schools, programs that make schools available to the families in the neighborhood in which they are located. With a strong neighborhood base, I believe that students will benefit by traveling shorter distances, and schools will benefit by integrating into our neighborhood, thus reducing violence and the confrontations that are so common today. I also believe that the new neighborhoods which are generating TIF funds, like the South and West Loop areas, can become even greater economic generators and better neighborhoods for the city. If a portion of those TIF funds continue to be used to build infrastructure like new schools, parks, and other facilities that those new communities need, they will keep families in the city, and the result will be it will benefit all of the city. I would also like to say about the recent controversy regarding the longer school day. In my experience, there is no question that we do need a longer school day. And the students themselves have been asking for it. The teachers have been asking for it, and the administrators have been asking for it. Many students are reluctant to go home. They want to stay for additional programs and activities. I can only urge, and have urged over and over, many of the parties involved, that they work together cooperatively and to come to some agreement on how to achieve this important goal. And now to efficiency, beginning with our city's fiscal health. On the floor of the City Council in 2009, I said I thought it was important that we look at a multi-year budget forecast so that we can say with a straight face to the taxpayers of this city, we are doing everything we can to operate in a fiscally responsible manner. And this year's annual fiscal analysis, the mayor stated that our budget process cannot be limited to a one-year review. We are finally taking that multi-year approach to give us the guideposts that we need on how to expect and where to have cuts in expenses and grow our tax base and balance our budget. Granted, there are many uncertainties and assumptions that must be made. The initial report only goes out 2 years. It's a good start, but we need to dial in and have a clearer understanding of what may lie ahead so that all of us, including my colleague, Joe Moore, can have a clearer understanding of what decisions we must make to keep this city sustainable. It's no secret that the city of Chicago, like municipalities around the country, are faced with structural deficits. How do we cut a proposed $635 million budget gap without raising taxes, making cuts in public safety, or using one-time revenues? We do have saving opportunities. For example, I've been a long-time advocate, and I'm glad everybody's getting on board, for for moving from garbage from the political lines to be collected to the grid-based system. Collecting garbage on a ward basis is inefficient, and by moving to the grid system, which is currently used for snow removal, tree trimming, and a host of other services throughout the city, we can save several millions of dollars annually. We also have to look at restructuring opportunities that exist for our city debt. With interest rates at a continued historic lows, we need to take advantage of any debt service savings that exist. But we also want to be the greenest city, and I am exploring ways of setting up a green bank, allocating some TIF dollars for energy audits of buildings in TIF districts that provide low-cost TIFs to building owners to finance the suggested improvements with TIF dollars paid back from energy savings. In the long run, the property owner will be saving money in energy costs. We have hosted Clean and Green in my ward on many occasions since I've been first elected. On October 15th, we had almost 300 volunteers, neighbors, scouts, local business leaders, and church groups which met at 10 sites to participate in various block beautification projects. We have to be innovative and effective environmental stewards. We need to identify ways to make public transit a more desirable and efficient mode of transportation for all of our residents. In 2009, the US EPA, the Department of Transportation, and HUD jointly established 6 livability principles that would guide future development policy and investment decisions. Chicago must have a plan to compete for those federal dollars. Bus rapid transit, or BRT, can generate economic benefits for this city. It can help alleviate congestion for those who don't use public transportation. And as a member of the Transportation and Public Ways Committee, I am looking forward to pursuing bus rapid transit as a viable option in our city. And I look forward to identifying more ways that the Second Ward and the city can be run more efficiently, not only today, but in the long run. Our city faces many issues, but history has shown us, if anything, that Chicago is resilient. I am confident that we will overcome the challenges before us, just as we have overcome the challenges of the past. To wrap it up, I guess it is fair to say, health has taken on an ever heightened importance to me this last year. Yes, my personal health, but equally important, the health of our residents and neighborhoods, our city's fiscal health, and the stewardship for our environment and well-being, not only today, but tomorrow. And even in these difficult economic times, and perhaps especially in these difficult times, I believe that there's a great deal of good that can be done creatively and resourcefully to add to the quality of life in our community. We all have to pull together, and I believe each and every one of us in this room should ask ourselves, how are we spending our days? Are we willing to do something that will make a positive impact on the long-term well-being of this great city? I ask myself that question every day, each and every day, and it motivates me each and every day. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to thank my staff, my service staff at 1319 South State. All 4 of them work tirelessly to serve our constituents and businesses. And I know they hate it when they get a call at 7 o'clock in the morning from me, or 11:30 at night, or to go out for a drive and a ride along both on Saturdays and Sundays. But I also must thank many of the citizen volunteers who have worked on our education and our park issues, our health and our job fairs, and other programs. They've been selfless and in their dedication, not only to me, but really to the people of the Second Ward and the city of Chicago. Thank you again for having me here, and I'm glad to address any questions.
Young Ginny over here has the official fishbowl. If you have a question for the Alderman, even if you don't live in the Second Ward, you're more than welcome to ask the question. And we have one question already from Bob Gallo, who's becoming for you aging baby boomers, the Lawrence Spivak of the City Club. Just see who's laughing, we see how old you are. You don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Not the first time that happened. Here's to some Bob. Why raise he's from ARP. Why raise city sticker fees instead of first going after the scofflaws?
I agree. No, actually, I really do agree. I've sat with the city clerk a couple of times in the last few weeks. We need to go after the scofflaws. You know, there are, believe it or not, and the number is not, we're not sure what the accurate number is, but it's either 700 million or 900 million that is out there to be collected by scofflaw violators. And those are debts owed to the city across the board. Think about it. Even if it's on the low side of 700 million, and let's say 70% of that can be collectible, we close that budget gap right away.
The moderator has a question. Thank you. Since there aren't any really influential people in this room, and since they're all friends of yours, and I know, especially Alderman Moore would never rat you out, how would you assess the first 6 months of working under Mayor Rahm Emanuel? Without getting yourself in trouble, because we still have remap, but how would you assess the differences, you know, just in general, so we get a feel of what it's like to be an alderman in the Rahm Emanuel administration?
And since I'm the first alderman to address the crowd under the new mayor, you know, it's exciting times for the city, and I think the job he's doing is the job that I would have laid out too. I think some of the items we would have taken a different tact and a different turn, but we're all in it together. One thing we don't realize that the mayor is part of the city council, even though we call this, you know, weak mayor, strong council, and even though we know otherwise, he is part of the city council. And we see the legislation now being introduced that comes from Ward 51. So he listens to us. He takes our suggestions. Many of this, such as the grid system, which I advocated over 2 years ago. There are other items in the budget address that I have proposed over and over again and are now being heard. And so I feel good about that. There is a much more constant communication with this mayor than ever before. And I say that, I'm not saying that Mayor Daley, he had a different type of style, and he was truly committed to the citizens and the people of the city of Chicago. He and I had our differences, and you know, I think all the aldermen have differences with this mayor, but we agree too with this mayor on many of the prospects. It's where we go though, and how we bind ourselves together and forge this coalition to move this city forward. Doesn't matter what we believe politically, but we all have to move this city forward. We have to increase our educational opportunities. When I talk about Jones, think about it. $19 million in scholarships, those 210 or 220 kids got this May. $19 million in scholarships. I mean, why can't we do that for all of our schools? You know, we got to improve the safety of our streets. I'm still looking at the closures. I was with the superintendent last night. And I'm still not sure whether we should be closing all the districts because we can't board up police buildings. When I did my tour of all 50 wards a year ago, and as some of you know, I did it from 10 miles in one ward to 100 miles in another ward, when I came across a boarded up police station, it socks you not only in the face but in the gut. And this foreclosure crisis affects our mental health. You know, if you have a house on your block that's boarded up, you feel it you feel it every day. And you know those people, your neighbors, are no longer there. They're unemployed, they've moved out. But think about what a boarded up police station means to the community. It's even bigger. So we are all working together. We are going to move forward the city because that's the goal, that's the quest, because we are a global city. Thank you.
All right. We have now 3 quick questions, and Alderman, not to cut you off or turn off your mic, but let's keep those answers a tad shorter, will you?
Thank you, Mayor.
No words and no gestures. Here we go. This is from Trevor Peterson. Where are you, Trevor? Right there. Right up there, sitting next to the president. Okay. Where do you see more efficiency saving opportunities in the mayor's proposed budget, like garbage pickup, etc.? You've addressed some of that. Just give us a quick answer.
Well, I think actually if we go back to the garbage itself, we you know, the efficiency has already been handled by many of the workers, the absentee rates. However, I have to tell you, one of the reasons that I got into the grid system was, and I see my ward superintendents here, we only have 3 trucks in the ward. We have 6 workers that pick up the garbage, yet we are consistently second or third 4 days out of the week in terms of the tonnage that our folks pick up. Yet some of the other wards in our district, which are only 9, have 8 to 11 trucks every day at their disposal, and they're at the bottom of the list. There are ways in terms of, I'm not sure that the 512 people that are going to be laid off, if that's going to be efficient in terms of what we have. Some of our departments are decimated. I think, though, by combining the Department of Environment with another department, will soothe some of the problems and some of the issues. I also think, again, the greater collection rate on this $700 or $900 million debt that's owed to the city, and a lot of it is owed by some of our citizens and by city workers.
Next to last questions. This is from Libby Brunsfeld. Where are you, Libby? There you go. From MedImmune. Okay. This is another easy question. Boy, they're really 3-inch putts here. Do you support the casino in the city? If so, where?
Well, last year I was here, and it raised a whole hubbub that I raised the issue that we need the casino to cut off the what was happening in the money's going to Indiana. And I was slowly resistant to get to that approach of having the casino. But when you look at $20 million each month going to Indiana in taxable revenues, I said we got to cut that. We got to put a blockade there on the Dan Ryan and have those monies come back into our city. And it did create a controversy, and it did result in many of the proposals that were advanced in the legislature shortly thereafter. I think there's only one place to put it, and that's in the 2nd Ward. So with that being said, we can move on.
Not much of a shocker there. Okay. Last but not least, our noted trumpeter, Charlie McGeaney. What are the plans to, oh, Jesus, Charlie. What are the plans to welcome the G8 Summit in May and to the 2nd Ward?
Well, I think we're seeing a test run of what's happening with Occupy Chicago. It starts over in the 42nd Ward, and they've tried to camp out in the 2nd Ward. And, you know, I go back to 1968, and the folks there, and I don't mean in a bad sense, but they did ask for permits that were then ultimately denied, and we ought to be looking at a place to put all the Occupy Chicago folks. I've come to that conclusion. We're spending way too much money in terms of police, personnel, and everything else, and we need to, that could be a good dry run. But G8 and the NATO summit are posing many problems for a lot of our businesses that don't want to do things until after they've left the city. So we need to plan accordingly. I'm concerned. A $50 million grant from the federal government is surely not enough. And why am I concerned? Because I see how many, as I was driving down here today, I saw all the police that were protecting the Occupy Chicago ones. And I think the numbers are huge, and so we're spending a lot of dollars and cents. It's the price of democracy. And so we have to plan ahead of time. I'm glad we move things around so we won't have the problems with the restaurant convention and the summit at the same time, because that convention pulls in millions of dollars for us. I don't know if it's in the hundreds of millions, and I don't know 100+ million, but we need to be prepared, and we have to be ready for it. So
there you go. How about a round of applause? Another one of these.